Hey folks, this is Totally and welcome to some more game dev. Today we're on the third day. We have 3 days left until my vacation ends and the game dev streams will come to an end. Or at least will become significantly more infrequent. We've got a lot more work to do if we're going to get to the demo. I don't think it's possible, but I'm going to keep moving forward step by step and see where we get to. So, at the beginning here, we've got this section where we're just finishing up the last cutscene that shall take us back to the Goddess Realm. We'll need to write a cutscene to gain our first skill, and then we can actually begin our first combat run. So there's a little bit of work here, but I'm excited to kind of see if we can get to like some combat balancing today. So let's jump in. So we need to make a new cutscene. So we're going to make a new cutscene for TO4. We're going to call this, I guess... What is this? This is the artifact? I guess it's Omni Weapon is probably a good name for it because that's what we're calling this thing. We're going to set the default trigger to be Omni Weapon. I'm not going to add any dialogue or required flags this time. This should be immediate because it's going to be set by an interactable. It will be non-repeatable and priority can stay at 0 because nothing else should ever have this trigger name. We're going to create that cutscene. We're going to make this Omni Weapon one. We will leave this asset here in case I need to add dialogue to it later. And then we're going to want to add a sequence step here. I think what we might want to do is whatever we do to exit when we're out of time. Is it just this? I guess it is. So let's just recreate that. That's a transition. Where is that located to? Transition scene? Is that the right terminology? Transition dungeon scene. It is not. This one is the one we're looking for, and we want to grab all of this data. So we're going to go to the Goddess Realm. We are going to go to combat base screen. We are going to go to intro cutscene spawn point. I think that's still true. And we're going to use the cloud cover to transition. Okay. So this cutscene should work with this transition. Now we just need to come into here, and when we do the interact, we will play that Omni Weapon 1. Perfect. And that should be all we need in order to interact and go back to the Goddess Realm. So we're going to come up here. Also, hello to you, Magnus. I hope you figure out a good dinner. So we interact, we go to the Goddess Realm. That's going to be fine. Why are we seeing a... This is the same error... Oh, this isn't. This is similar to the error we were seeing in Drixie's stream yesterday, but that's actually to do with the Goddess Realm not being set up with its props correctly anymore, which I suppose we need to do at some point. Maybe now is the time, but let's say this is good. So this is taking us there. If we want to be a little bit more keen, we could come in here and add another animation parameter step before this. Make it blocking. I'm going to animate this prop to anim 2. I don't know if this is going to work. I didn't get a chance to look off stream what's going on with these things not acting the way that I would expect. Okay, let's give that a shot. And then if it takes us back to the Goddess Realm, then we need to make another cutscene because we're going to need to pick up our first starting skill. We're probably going to want to start working out of boot screen today as well, because we're going to want to have a save for once we're past all of this. Okay, so that did activate it, but it's not continuous. I'm going to have to dig into that later. I don't want to spend a ton of time debugging. I want to try and get some content in today. Okay, so this is playing the first intro scene, and this is kind of what I'm getting at. We're going to need to start from boot if we're going to have things play out correctly. Yeah. So, the Goddess Realm, does it have a folder in here as well? It does. It's named somewhat differently from the other ones. Does that matter in terms of its naming convention? It does. But we don't really load this addressable directly, I don't think. We figure these out based off their trigger names. I'm going to change this just to be Goddess Realm and update this addressable ID here. And this one is already in the kind of more normalized format that we have. We're going to rerun the cutscene parser to just make sure that that's up to date with what the addressable for this should be. Okay. Now, we're going to create a new cutscene, Goddess Realm. This one's going to be... It's going to have no room associated with it because there is only the Goddess Realm right now. If I leave this blank, what happens? I'm just going to create this real quick and see... Oh, yeah, we do get double... So we might want to put these in subfolders, which might not be bad for organization anyways. We might want to have, like, different sections, because we're going to have a lot of cutscenes every time you come back, and categorizing them might help with organization. Okay, so I think this can be Return is a fine name for this. So this will be Goddess Realm Return, and this is the first return. It's going to have no required flags, but it should have a lesser priority, but still equally extremely high priority to the intro boot one. And I probably want to write the dialogue here. So the dialogue is going to be similar to this one. It's NPC Goddess. You know what? Drixie was asking me to fix this because the name shows up right now as NPC Goddess. This should be an easy fix, but I'm just going to double check. When we do character ID, does that map to anything? No, right now the character ID is being used directly as the indicator or the string value for the name. We should probably have design data for each character so that we can change their name without having to change the ID. But we're gonna, for the time being, again, we're gonna take easy fixes where we can today. We're gonna change this to just Goddess, which shouldn't be a major impact. We're just gonna need to go find the NPC character here. And we're going to have to find where that entity exists here and update it. And nothing else should have been using that entity ID, so we should be fine making that change. Okay, so then if we come back down to our cutscenes, take a look at the intro. We're probably going to have the goddess speak first. Ooh, I don't know if I want to spend a ton of time figuring out dialogue today. Let's write what I want the intent of sentences to be and not worry about so much what the actual dialogue will be. So I think Goddess starts by greeting Hero. Probably a medium dialogue box. top center, probably. Is that what we were doing before? Yeah, top center and then bottom center for hero. Essentially, I think this is a welcome back greeting. Then we have hero confused. Then we can go back to the goddess. Explanation. Ooh, this doesn't have a scroll wheel associated with it. Okay, that's fine. I think that's okay, because we can drop these down. So we get an explanation from the goddess. Probably 2 explanations. Give room for 2 lines. If I want to, I can remove one of them. Then we have hero. What are we doing? We're doing welcome back, confused, explanation 1, explanation 2. Then this becomes hero, remark. Pick skill. Further explains Omni weapon. Explains leaving to forest. Okay, and we will figure out what the actual dialogue for this is later, but I think that's a fine start. So we'll say that that's what we begin with. Minimize these so we can get back our buttons. Let's hit create that sequence. That should make a new folder called return, first return, and it's added all of this information. We can now come into here, and we had inside of the completion of TO2 reveal a opening of the start ability screen. That is no longer going to happen here. That's going to happen instead inside of this first return. Which is weirdly not in UI, but actually is in part of the cutscene. I think I need to do like a cleanup on some of these. We did that the other day with... We did that with some of our other tooling. I feel like the number of sequence steps and their positioning in what folders is starting to get a little confusing as we start to add significantly more of them. So we're going to open the starting ability screen. It looks like we need some sort of like prompt to know we're done, which I don't love, but we'll keep it just working the same. So we're going to add a base, backend, nope, base, flag wait sequence step. Ooh, was it not a flag wait sequence step? Was it, what was it that we were... It was a flag wait. But adding a new one here did not work. It is a flag wait. So why does that not work? here? Just looking at the raw data here to see if there's some difference between them. Start dialogue, advance, advance, advance. I don't think it's saved out the asset. That is a flag wait, and that is also a flag wait. Interesting. But that works in an existing one, but it no longer works if I try and create a new one. Okay. I'm gonna make a attempt to fix this by just closing and reopening Unity to see if it like re-imports the data. Could have also just right-clicked and re-import the file, I suppose, but I don't like the way I'm doing this anyways, like having it so the screen sets a flag when it's been completed and then the event listens for that flag is kind of annoying and feels a bit cumbersome, opposed to just having some way of knowing when the UI has closed. Yeah, still in a bad state. If I was to copy and paste this one, does it also still work? It does. It's not related to that. Are there multiple things with the words flag wait? Could we have two different sequences with the same naming? Otherwise, it's a problem with the sequence scriptable editor and the way that it's displaying the dropdown. Yeah, it looks like there's only one. Huh. Perhaps it is because it is unfolded. No. If I was to add a new one here in this class, it also works. If I was to create a new sequence that isn't done through my cutscene editor, would this one still have the same problem? Yes. So something about this one we had created a few weeks ago and I got working so that we can actually see the required flags in this way is set up in a way that it works fine. But if we ever try and make a new instance, the metadata is not working. And even if we check the two like asset files, there doesn't seem to be much of a difference between these two pieces. We could try copying this information directly into the asset, which is a little bit dangerous, but see if that fixes it, just to get us past this problem right now. So if I save that and then I re-import, It is still showing an error. But it should have the information I want inside the flag. Would it manually work, I wonder? Yeah, because digging into this is a huge editor problem, which I'm not getting into right now. We will find a hack and a workaround, and I will fix this later. I should I suppose write it down, though, just so I don't lose it. This one will not need an explanation. It's very clear. We can just put that image in PureRef under bugs and move on with our day. Okay, I'm gonna try it. Let's go to boot screen. Dungeon. Oh, we want to change this so that the trigger name is the name of the scene for this. And then once we've made that change, we'll need to rerun cutscene parser to update that data in the JSON files. The name of the trigger being different. Now, if we start from scratch, we should be able to play through to that point. So we start here, new game. Interesting. So the first cutscene is broken after we renamed the addressable for it. But that should be driven by our cutscene management system. Is there 2 entries now because we don't clean up old ones? Do I have to manually come in here and delete it from the JSON file? Yeah, it does look like it. Yeah, now there's 2 versions with different IDs. So this is the old one with the old formatting. And it's finding that one first because it's higher in the list. And they both have the same priority and the same trigger name. So it was finding that other one. Okay. So that implies that we do need to maybe recreate every time we run cutscene parser, we might need to regenerate that JSON data from all of our cutscenes. The problem is we have a separate set of cutscenes for the completes, which are generated separately through the level editors, but I feel like either this system needs to be reworked, or probably more accurately, there needs to be 2 JSON datas, one for cutscenes generated from scenes and one generated from the folders. Yeah, that's probably the better approach. That way we can regenerate the JSON data every time and we don't get any stale data like what we just saw. Okay. New game. Should get the boot scene now. Yes, we get null references on the props because we need to rebuild the props in this scene with the new data. It is failing to find the goddess hello. Okay. That is because the portraits also used the ID. I should have realized that. So under art, characters, no, character portraits, goddess. This now needs to just be goddess. and goddess, and we remove the NPC part of it because we've renamed the entry. Okay, now can we get into the intro? The position is off. So it is failing to find the entry. Alright, let's go take a look at the object in the scene. So there's the goddess. It still says NPC goddess. Oh, did I modify the wrong one? I think I modified the container version. Okay. Interesting. So we need to go... I didn't think that renaming the goddess's ID would be such a big deal, but it seems like it is a little more complicated than I thought. This also needs to be renamed because we spawn the goddess object and then give it the NPC an entity ID based off of whatever entity ID is on this thing. So now if we go back to boot... a lot of individually like kind of hard-coded spots. But again, if it was driven by like a character, I feel like it would be better. Okay, so we're gonna have our initial little cutscene here. Hero's gonna be confused. I guess we can mute and listen to the game audio for this. And somehow that broke things? What happened? We failed to find the... Okay, yeah, no, that's fair. Yeah, changing NPC goddess ID kind of wrecks everything because we use that for also the intro. Because now we're not just changing the dialogue name, we're changing the entity ID, which means we're changing this thing as well. That's frustrating. So we definitely should have it so that the character ID maps to a design data where we get like the actual string name. That way if we want to change the name on the dialog box, we don't have to modify everything. And I knew that was probably the right way, but I tried taking a shortcut because I thought it would save us time. But in reality, it's just proved to be kind of a huge pain to just like try and just get through this intro cutscene after renaming the goddess. Okay. This part works okay.
Huh?
Does she walk forward? She does. Hands us something. Oh, she doesn't switch facing back. There is one more failed entry that I didn't see. Set unit's direction was collapsed. Okay, that's fine though. We got through. We've got some entrances or some dialogue here that doesn't make a ton of sense. A lot of placeholder pieces. We're going to see a cutscene here that we hadn't shown yet today. Need to have that glow continue to loop as it does this effect. We pick it up. We come back here and we should have a different cutscene. We do not. We do not get a different cutscene on return. So we should have gotten first return as a number 98 here, and we should have gotten a welcome back confused. And all of this is using the new IDs, so that wouldn't be a problem. Okay. Let's make a save point right before we pick up the Omni Weapon artifact. We're going to speed through some of this now.
Huh?
Okay, so let's make a new save. Let's overwrite this one. If we walk up here and we interact and take this object, we're coming into here, and we should be getting a cutscene, but we're not. This should be... Oh, this one needs to have intro type. That's why. That's why. Okay, let's load that save file. Let's not have the game be super tiny. Okay, so we come into here, walk up, take this, go back to the Goddess Realm. Still not happening. It has the same trigger event and the same entrance information here. Oh, this is going to get annoying. We didn't parse the cutscene data. So this data is not read at runtime. It's parsed into a JSON file, which then goes and tries to find this addressable and like creates a bunch of like game object backend stuff for it. I wonder if I could write something that like auto detects that we've modified those objects. And when we modify those objects parameters, we actually update the JSON data at the same time. I bet you I could. That shouldn't be too difficult. Okay, now we get the welcome back. These are going to be overlapping because I've wrote them poorly. We get the dialogue here. We pick one. More dialogue. Okay, and then the cutscene's over. That's neat. I didn't realize that we actually had set this up in a way that dialogue could actually move with the character. I always close it properly. Huh. That could be useful. That could be useful. Okay, let's fix the dialogues. So we're going to have each of Hero's dialogues. Let's go to this inspector so it's a little easier to see. We're going to have each of Hero's dialogues set to... We're going to have this one be bottom center. Bottom center. Is that all the hero? Hero only speaks twice during this sequence? Okay. probably have Gotta Say Welcome Back, Confused, Explanation, Pick Skill. This one can close all when we pick the skill. And we might want to add a bit of a delay to give that a chance to fully close. I don't know. I don't think we do that by default. Even if we're waiting on the dialogue, I don't think this is smart enough to handle that. So we're going to give this a half-second delay before bringing up the screen. And then if we come back to the dialogue asset, opens, continues, and this one can close all at the end. I might want to change the ordering on which ones close, but this will at least get it to not look broken. Yeah. Okay. Continue from the Demon Lord's castle. Walk up, pick up the object, and then we should see this cutscene play out better. Maybe not perfect, but better. Okay. Welcome back. Confused. Explanation. Explanation, pick a skill. The delay there could be a little faster, I think. Remark on Omni Weapon. Further explanation. Explains leaving to the forest. I'd like to get rid of that checkpoint window coming up if we only have one. And we have some more dialogue before we get into our tutorial on entering the forest. Ooh, we get stuck here. Ooh, super interesting. That cutscene is broken. To be fair, we haven't touched this stuff in a little bit, so I'm going to drag this up here today. I don't think we need to have both windows in the same section, one on top of each other, if we're not doing editor stuff. Specifically map prop placement. Let's go to Forest TO2. Let's just try and figure out why the Reveal Room tutorial is breaking. So this is supposed to be doing Reveal Room tutorial ability, which is going to be this one. And this is trying to add a sequence for Forest TO2 Reveal Room. That likely got renamed or moved or something. In fact, we've kind of moved away from doing it this way. And that's why. Yeah, we broke this because we've changed the way we do cutscene triggering, and I hadn't updated this scene. So if we go back to Dungeons Forest TO1, I think I had made the change here. But when we do a tutorial, we now do a cutscene tile, which gives it a cutscene and the trigger name of the cutscene we'd like to have happen. Not just trigger an ability that adds a sequence directly. And this goes through our cutscene system now, which means that it won't trigger multiple times. So if we copy this object, go to Forest TO2, paste that in, drag it over here, because these were also requiring the object that we added in that addressable ability to also have to have like tags custom for each and every one to make sure that like each one was setting a flag, and then when that flag was set it wasn't actually being re-triggered. And we've now kind of gotten rid of all of that by just making this cutscene system. It's way easier to add these. So we want this reveal one. So this is looking for this as its trigger name. And we can delete the other old style ones. And then just copy this, move it over. And then copy this and move it over. And that should now trigger the cutscene, quote unquote, properly. Let's give that a shot. Yeah, and that's working correctly now. And revealing that part of the UI. Now, we do want to remove the ability select stuff from this part of the game. It should only ever show up in the Goddess Realm now. And I think that's essentially the flow of the intro game experience. Let's go from the top one more time. So starting at new game, we come into here. Get a conversation from the goddess.
Aww.
I don't know if she should be giving you the clock at this point. The clock might make more sense to give on the second run. Because we're not going to actually have time counting down here. This first section, we don't want you to be able to lose, quote unquote, from running out of time. Yeah, I think comes with Omni Weapon Drixie is probably a better approach. Drixie in Twitch chat says agrees, comes with Omni Weapon, question mark. That's what I'm responding to. Okay, so we come into here. There's some animation problems with the pulsing, but otherwise this is okay. Not sure where the door went during this process. I bet you I accidentally removed it when I was fixing the tops of the walls earlier. I did do a pass on the wall tops. We come back here. We get a welcome back. We get hero being confused. We get an explanation about picking a skill. We choose a skill. Remarks on the Omni Weapon. Further explains it. Explains leaving the forest. And then we walk out here and we exit to our very first run to actually start combat. Here we get some more dialogue, which doesn't really make as much sense anymore with the new context of the Demon Lord's castle. We have no reward for revealing this whole room. And then we run into our very first enemy, where this also needs to be updated to the new cutscene tile object. Okay, my brain is not working today. We want to come into here. We want to go TO2. And we want to grab the cutscene object we were just using. Copy that. Come back over here. Go into TO3. And then we're going to replace this enemy tutorial one with this new object. These we're trying to trigger, I'm going to guess, this one, which trigger name is enemy tutorial. Update here, delete these two objects, copy this one, paste it, move it over, save, and then we can probably load the autosave to get back to where we were. There's so much cleanup work to be done. So much cleanup work. I feel like I also kind of want to rethink a little bit of how we're doing this first tutorial with combat and like obviously the first few pieces of dialogue we have. But yeah, we really need to do like a balance pass on all these numbers. The slime is too tanky. Without having multiple skills, it just becomes a slam A, which I don't like, but that will go up as you gain more abilities. The timer is not activated. Did I delete that at some point? We definitely had a flag we set up for it, but I'm not seeing it in any of these cutscenes. We can add it here. I think when I was showing some stuff to Drixie, I may have deleted the clock disable from one of the cutscenes and didn't remember to add it back. But that means it's going to be basically impossible for us to die with the current stats. Oh, does the slime not have a health bar right now? Do we have that bug written down? We've had that bug for a couple, like, honestly, before the vacation started. I don't think we have that one. I've been meaning to look into that one for a long time. Let's put it down here. Okay. We're trying to get an idea of what the first combat run looks like. That's the goal for this morning. And part of that's going to be figuring out like these initial skill trees. Okay. It's a bit overwhelming, is what I'll say. So how do we fix that? We take it one step at a time. We take it one step at a time. First off, let's restart from just before we picked up the artifact here on this save, and make sure that the change I just made to make it so the clock is disabled after the second cutscene with the goddess is going through. So now when we come down into here, we should see the timer start ticking. And it does. Okay, so that's fixed. So, like, I want to do, like, a balance pass is, like, where my head is at. But I don't think we can do that without, like, better understanding the flow. Okay. So currently we land here and we go through these rooms. I've called this out in the past, but I don't like how long this trek is to get to this room because you can't do it in one run. Go. So currently we are coming from the Demon Realm. There's a bit of a tutorialization on Interacts. Okay, this is the Demon Castle TO3. It doesn't really teach us anything, it's just spacing, basically, is what we ended up needing that for. Omni Weapon. Okay, so this is the current flow. We come from this kind of land in the storage room with the goddess statue. We come down, there's a couple of interacts if you choose to engage with those. There's like essentially room just to kind of get the orientation correct so that when we enter into the Omni Weapon room, we get the cool reveal that I'm looking for. We got that weapon. Then we go back to the goddess realm. The goddess realm then sends us back down on TO1. Then we have a room complete tutorial, which isn't really doing anything right now because like completing a room doesn't have an effect. I think we'd like to make it so that the goddess realm is how we increase your time. So currently we have like this hard-coded time remaining and it resets to like 120 every single time you start a new run. But we want this to change. And we are thinking about making it so it was related to the node system originally. But I think what might make more sense is having it so that when you fully reveal a room, the idea is you're pushing back the Demon Lord's influence by revealing all the tiles again. We want to have like a miasma kind of dark smoke at some point, which I really should do because we're missing it and it kind of is a core feature of how the game will look. But it's just something I keep putting off. But conceptually, the idea is that the world is taken over in darkness and you're pushing it back, and you know, every room you fully reveal, you're growing the goddess's power. And so it would make sense that the timer being how long you can do a run before you're overwhelmed by the darkness and miasma, that timer increasing would be based off the goddess growing stronger. Whereas the skill tree is more around you unlocking new abilities and increasing your stats and hero becoming stronger. So I feel like having it so the timer increases from this one thematically and narratively doesn't make as much sense. It gives me another node type, and it's great to be able to have more node options to be able to give the player to make deciding which paths to take more interesting. But I think I like the idea more of fully revealing a room being tied to the goddess getting stronger and thus you having more time in a run through her power. So that's missing right now. but that's kind of what we're saying we want to be teaching here. Does that make sense for the first room you get access to? I think it makes a lot less sense now. It made more sense when this was the starting part of the game, because we wanted to try and unlock your first ability before you got to combat, so we were trying to force that into this room. But now that we have this whole section here of 4 rooms that eventually leads to you gaining this weapon and then unlocking your first ability in the Goddess Realm, so you go to the Goddess Realm, you get an intro, you get sent here. You come through. You go back to the Goddess Realm, you gain your first ability, you get sent here. I feel like this makes more sense to me to be a thing that happens now way over here. And maybe we should be teaching tutorial combat stuff here. Is that a relatively easy thing to do, actually? Because we can just kind of copy this to here. We just need to make sure the entrances and exits line up. The problem is we can't control the player not fully revealing rooms here or here. At least not easily. Like the easiest approach to that, and I should really be doing that in the first one, in TO1 here, we make it so that there's actually another part of the world that exists over here that the player cannot access and therefore cannot fully reveal all the tiles. And the idea would be this is a part of the world the player comes back to later. I would like to have it so that when you eventually make it all the way to the fields and then get through some more of the gameplay, this is beyond tutorial, this is more the later parts, but eventually you'll make it your way to a town area which will unlock more stuff, and that'll gain access to the ability to come back to the forest and go back up this way, and then gain access to this room from an alternate entrance, thus turning this goddess statue, which was your very first one, into a shortcut to get you more close to a deeper part of the forest. That's a way later game kind of process. We're not worrying about that too much right now, but that's how I'm explaining you not being able to fully reveal the first room, is simply you don't have access to the entire space until way later. This is like part of a way later part of the game. And if I do that, it should make it so you can't access any of this, and thus you'll never get the fully revealed prompt. And every time you come back here after revealing the revealed percentage bar, you'll see that you're only at like 20% of that map revealed, which I think is interesting. It might be annoying or feel buggy to people, but it will lead to a cool aha moment eventually. As for here, we could do something similar. So we could have it so this map comes around this way. So what would that look like? So we'd have... This is like a secret entrance. And we could make it so that rather than just being a pass through that goes further north, we could have it so that we go in through this map and then maybe exit north from this one through a secret exit. Which means this is no longer like row A, it would need to be going higher than that. But regardless, if we do that, then we can have both these first two rooms be unfully revealable. And it's a weird negative sentence, but we could make it variable. We could make it so this room here you can fully reveal, and if you fully reveal it, we trigger a cutscene to explain fully revealing and unlocking more time. But if you don't do it here, we like hard build this map in a way that you are required to unlock everything. And this becomes like a combat challenge room. With maybe multiple slimes able to attack you at the same time. So if you don't fight them in a smart way or you haven't leveled up enough, it's difficult to get past this one. So we land, we get an intro to combat. We get combat again, but maybe it's a slight step up, but for the most part testing your skills. It's generally not a bad idea in RPGs or in games in general to repeat concept learning. So we could have T2 and T3 both be teaching basic combat stuff, and they're not really that elaborate. They're just enemies that exist in your path that you have to deal with. Then we get to T4, and we guarantee teach you about goddess power and increasing max time by the way the room is structured. Then we get a combat challenge with multiple enemies potentially being revealed no matter how you move through the map, and you have to deal with two enemies at the same time. And then you finally gain access to the goddess statue. Now, one additional wrinkle here is I would like to make it so that it's possible to get to this goddess statue in one run. If you know exactly what you're doing and you're speed running, I would like to make it so that you can do this first tutorial run and get to the first checkpoint. And I think in general that's a thing I'd like to have moving forward. But there's like this weird tension between like wanting to have it so that you can complete every room or every checkpoint in one run, essentially. So you get to the next checkpoint, die, come back, get to the next checkpoint, die. Like, it would be neat to have that kind of flow, but to do that, it means that the combat and the gameplay must not be so difficult to prevent you from being able to reach the end. It's a really weird tension between those two. Because I want you to fight stuff. There's also a general question of, is 5 rooms too much of a trek for this first section? Maybe the first goddess statue is supposed to be in T5. Like, I know I already have a room built, but we have to probably rip all that up and rebuild anyways with the new prop manager system. So any of these ones that, like, the ones that had black outlines were indications of ones that had been fully propped out. But I think I need to rebuild them from scratch anyways. So I don't need to be married to these existing designs. And if we did goddess statue, combat, combat repeat, plus potential to teach you about power, and then guaranteed to teach you about power, and then a goddess statue followed by a combat challenge, if you get through all of this and you get to this combat challenge, you get your checkpoint. And then if you don't make much progress on that combat challenge because you're weak from these first few battles and you end up losing, it doesn't feel like you have to walk through these previous rooms again. Yeah. Yeah. Then it becomes a, even if this is a hard challenge, I just keep respawning at the challenge. And quote unquote grinding to like kill those couple of enemies. And if I want to level up my skills, I could also take this time to be like, oh, this is a room with 3 or 4 slimes in it or something. I'm just going to keep respawning here at this checkpoint and fighting my way through. So that feels really good from a grinding perspective, that I can jump into this checkpoint and have a number of slimes to fight. But then when I'm done grinding, is it not annoying that I have to spawn, then deal with those slimes, go for a run, end up dying partway, start another run, deal with the slimes, you know, not make it very far again. Like, it feels like it might gate me a little too much on the beginning of each run. Maybe we're supposed to put the goddess statue in T4, give you a checkpoint there at the end of that room if you got through all of this combat, gain some knowledge about time, get through this challenge room with a fair amount of enemies in it, and then have this goddess statue still here, only 1 room away, but through a rather difficult fight area. It feels a little odd to have 2 of them close to each other, but that would eliminate the, like, I don't know. This section here, I think I'm still not sold on this paper design. I like the idea of having a bit of a challenge, but maybe this challenge doesn't even have to be super hard. Like, it could just be 2 enemies. And you have to just properly kite one of them, like maneuver in such a way that the other one falls behind. I probably should have done this as an alternate version again, but this is better. Yeah, this is better. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start from scratch, basically. Yeah. Yeah. So we're going to leave this room the way it is. This one's fine. This is just an intro spawn. This room, we're going to move to, instead of being TO2, at least the layout, instead of being TO2, is going to be TO4. Let's go TO2. I think we might just pick up this entire room object, copy it, go over to... I don't know if this works. I think it should just work. Go over to TO4. Paste this. Grab the information about the east and north entrances and drag that down into this one. Then delete this object. Raycast while overwriting the texture. Delete the old north and the old east? No. No, we delete these two and we reposition the ones that already had the correct room data that they wanted to transition to. And this effectively becomes TO4. The only problem is it's not going to transition to the right spot here. This one needs to be shifted now because it's going to be too low. This is 2 tiles away from the bottom. So then if we come back over into scenes, dungeons, forest, TO3, this one just needs to come down to here, which is maybe fine anyways. It was kind of, we don't want this to be too large of a space, so simplifying this down a bit might be beneficial regardless. Okay. Okay, then we go back to TO5. This needs to be adjusted as well. So now TO4 has its entrance here, which is 1, 2... I can just copy it. TO5. And TO5's entrance needs to be here. Which again kind of reduces the shape of this space a bit. Okay. just making simplifications. We can use props to make this more windy, but we could do something very simple like that. Yeah, okay. I think this seems fine. I think this one can be modified now so it's not identical. So it's still going to come in the same spot because it has to match the previous scene. And it could even exit from the same spot, although it doesn't have to. But the more important thing now is that this is going to be a space about teaching combat more than a space about revealing the room. However, if we do want to kind of keep this idea of like a secondary exit, wait, am I not smiling today? I thought I modified my VTuber. We're gonna do this live. Where is my... There. I thought I had made this change the other day to permanently make it so that I'm smiling. Okay. Cool. Better. So then this potentially would go this way. And then have like an exit that leaves over here. Can even just do something that's like really simple like that. That would give us a fair amount of room to still play with without kind of bumping into this edge. So then if we go back to TO1, I want to do something similar here, I think. It's almost the opposite in this one. We're going to have it so you enter in from such a small spot in the corner. We actually have a lot of room to come back here later. Well, somewhat, because I want to have some trees here for your very first entrance. So we will need to have enough room for those trees to kind of exist. But I think this is not unreasonable. Like that? Okay, so the first two rooms have secret exits, which these may not be the exact layouts, but it at least gives us an idea of the spacing. And then if we come back over into TO2, that means we have much of this space to work with. Same problem though, if we want to have tall trees along this edge, we will need to make sure there's enough of a gap here that you don't get like the trees cutting off our space here. So it's more important, I think, if we want to make this feel right, to have it so that we have maybe just that amount of room. And we actually have more of a wide space here to work with. Yeah, we might have to play with some stuff here to see what we can make work. I don't really need to collapse any of these pieces. I can have them overlapping like crazy if I want. I just like having it kind of be set up somewhat correct. I don't love it. Let's play with it though. Yeah, I'm curious. Let's turn on spawn all so that we can see the whole map at once. And then these are underneath the correct section. We're going to go into above mode. We're going to turn on inspector view here. We're going to bring it closer mostly so we can see these prompts more easily. We're going to hit F to resume, which should let us drag more easily. And then we're gonna just pencil in some trees. I know, Drixie, you have newer pieces that we are working on, but we're just gonna try some stuff here. Let's do center option. Yeah, this is all gonna break when we get the latest, because I think Drixie reorganized all of these. What is kind of our more... I think this is one of the ones, the shapes that we like the most. And if we turn on front... Oh, those didn't work at all. Ooh, did we get into the same bug? No, that should be fine. What does that look like? Not looking for like pure beauty, just looking for like silhouettes. So that does hide a good chunk of this section up here. Let's take a look in scene. And I suppose that makes sense actually. So we can only see 1, 2 of the tiles here at the top. But in reality, there's 3 tiles underneath. So this whole section is basically invisible. So that's too much. Oh, and obviously we can't have any trees here because it's going to completely destroy our ability to see. Okay. So Let's start by just grabbing all of these and just clear. Let's select these ones. Oh, it auto-cleared. Nice. Multi-select winning sometimes. Sure. Not ancient trees. That is definitely not what we're looking for. And then bushes. How much can we see now? More. It does look like we're cutting off a little bit of space. In fact, just for the sake of testing purposes, I believe this is the spawn point we are starting at. Let's start up here. So if we were to come in here, we can't see ourselves all the way on this side, but otherwise I don't mind that too much. And we don't need to go all the way out. We could even just stop right there. Make this just a very small area that you transition through. A little secret cove. And I think you will always still be able to see Hero above the edge. I don't mind the way that's looking. You definitely can't see the tops of these tiles. Or sorry, you can't see these tiles at all here. I suppose we could do a insert twice here, grab this block, paste here. Could even do this. I think I do want to have enough space here for props still. So like I might want, I don't know, right wall fence or something? No. What would something like that look like? Yeah, so you wouldn't be able to see the object. So if we were to do this and make it visible, it would probably need to be something like this. But even that, I don't think is going to be visible from the angle. No, they're not tall enough. If we go... We gotta go bigger. We can't just go size 20. We gotta do I guess you can kind of tell what can be seen just by the tops of the shadows. That's where it would become visible. So I think we are going to need something fairly large here. Let's add custom versions just out of curiosity. Let's do stone 20 and raise the height up. Yeah, so if we had some stone pieces that were 30 in size, they would become visible. Which would still be allowing us to see Hero. But know that we're not able to walk onto those tiles. I can work with that. We can come up with some props that make sense for what's going on here. And then same thing here, if we add custom, do large stones. Ooh, surprisingly, these would need to be a lot taller. Like 40 high. Which is going to completely block our ability to see our character, I think. Oh no, shadows don't work the same way here as a representation of that. Okay. So yeah, they don't need to be nearly as big. Would 20 work? Yeah, 100%. Okay, so if we have a couple of props running along the front here that are at least 30, they can indicate that we can't walk any further this way on tiles. And we'll be stuck in this range where Hero is very visible. And we'd probably want to just do like maybe a small fence or something here. And even something like that would probably work well enough. Didn't hit save. Yeah. So this is just a very narrow, only 2 wide path. But it'll prevent you from fully revealing this whole section until you get to this later part of the game. And it has enough room for us to be able to exist. So I think this is the limit. We can't have any tiles beyond this space. And in order to indicate that, we're actually going to copy this water one, bring it up, and I'm going to put it along that edge just so that I know exactly where we can't have any more tiles. This is a hard barrier. Anything further than this point will eventually break things. Okay. And this can be half height. It doesn't need to be the full height. And then we can also vertex color shade it. Warning, do not go beyond this point. Sure. These water versions had no mesh collider, right? So they won't get raycast and they won't be part of our generation. Okay, so if that's the case, now we need to design this space in such a way that you are guaranteed to run into your very first enemy, which this seems like a pretty natural bottleneck. We need to move our spawn point back down into the normal position. I'm not too concerned about like what props we're placing, because until we get the new content, this is all just placeholder. But we're just trying to pencil in shape. So I think I'm just gonna layer in stuff to where I'm going to have props. So all of this will be stone for now. This can all be stones. And go above. This and this all become stone. Okay. So that is the edge of the map, all full of props. Not unlike what we do with the walls in the Demon Lord's castle. Okay. So then we're allowed to play with anything down the center here. I think our first enemy could make sense to be somewhere in this area. We will be forced to step here on 211, just one to the right of this large stone. So if we stand there, what tiles will be revealed? What are we forced to see? Oh, right. Obviously, that's not going to work if we don't have... our hierarchy set up. So we need to turn off spawn the whole world. We shouldn't need that for what we're currently doing. And we want to see which tiles become revealed, because we're going to try and kind of push the player into a very specific spot. So here you are forced to step here on one of these two. And when you step here, it will reveal these two or these two. So this rock here, we could place an enemy, and that would be a guaranteed spot where an enemy would have to be. We could also put something here, like another shrub or something, and then this could be a guaranteed spot for the enemy. If we go up here, up to here, I actually like this spot more. I think we can leave this more open. We don't have to, you know, push you so hard into a very specific corner. But I think if we make this spot the position of the enemy, even though it's quite a wide area, you have to come around this corner eventually to exit, and you will reveal this spot. So I believe that was here at 1712. So we could put a slime here. Dungeons, forest, TO3. We're going to copy these three objects. I'm going to go back. Forest, TO2. And then the enemy spawn can go here. The trick is we aren't... Well, no, we should be able to tell exactly which tiles reveal the enemy. So if you step here, that should reveal the enemy. If you step here, that should reveal the enemy. If you step here, I believe that should be a reveal, and that should also be a reveal. This one might want to be here. Actually, I think, yeah, it's like this. That's how we set up the cutscenes to trigger. Let's give that a shot. I'm going to try going to the topmost one to validate that that spawns the slime first. Yep, that was the first tile that the slime could spawn. Now we'll go one down. And then any in that row should cause the enemy to appear. Yeah, and then I'm just going to double check to make sure the middle one doesn't reveal the enemy sooner, but we don't have like an extra bit of sight from the front, it's always a 3 at a time, I think. Yeah. So all 3 of those should be effectively identical. The only thing about this is the enemy goes and hits us first. I think... the enemy won't get the first strike if we enter into any of the other 2 spots. Here, the enemy will only move once and not be able to reach us. And I think at the highest point... I was going to say the enemy will be further away, but it's actually a similar distance. Okay. So if we want it to be identical in all 3 cases, what we could do is we could disable this cutscene. And then on this tile here... add some sort of object to block our path. So you have to walk around it. And I don't think there should be any advantage to any of these tiles. Oh, we never hit save. And I think this forces the enemy to always go but not hit us first, because of just the angle of how we reveal. And then we get an opportunity to strike first by moving forward and then using our attack, which we would have if we went through the tutorial properly. And then we have this kind of large stone that we can use to kind of kite the enemy around. I don't mind that. Okay. So if that's the case, that probably serves well enough as a tutorial for encountering your first enemy. We may not need any of this up here. This whole area could be collapsed down a bit, but we could also have like an additional enemy up here or something. Or maybe even a chest. We could start off with like an item or a reward. It's something we haven't built yet, but I think a chest is just an interactable that animates an object to a new state. Essentially the open state. The problem is we don't have like item storage kind of figured out right now. It also might be a little early to try and introduce so many concepts. So we might be better off just like pulling this whole section in. We can still leave it somewhat open here, or we could even bring that in a bit too. I'm gonna leave it at the full extent just to see if like there's maybe something we want to do with it. We can always close it off later. Okay. Okay. And then we come into here and we get a separate section that's also going to be a bit of a tutorial on slimes as well. Kind of repeat the patterns. I think that this feels better to me. So we're going to start with the goddess statue landing here in the forest. We're then going to go into a combat tutorial. Then we're going to have TO3, which can be combat as well as be a room that is actually completable for the first time, which will teach you about unlocking more goddess power and increasing the maximum amount of time per run. TO4 will kind of repeat that process by forcing you. If you don't do it here, because it'll be optional, you'll have to actually explore to have this happen. But if you don't fully explore, this one will be designed in such a way that you are forced to fully reveal it as you walk through it, because there won't be a wide enough path. And then here, we want to have it be more of a challenging fight with several slimes potentially more closely stacked together. I say several, but really it's like 2. That seems like a good plan. We'll continue this after lunch. We are getting close. We've run over the last few streams, but I feel like this is a good breaking point. I want to think about this a little bit more as I eat some lunch. But I'm liking the initial layout so far. The big thing is now actually setting up a save file where we actually have an ability. And playing with some tuning numbers to feel like, get an understanding of what the first combat looks like, because it is just going to be you going basically AAA or BBB or YYY depending on which ability you select until the enemy's dead. There won't be a lot of combos, there won't be a lot of like, you know, changing up, you know, attacks or anything. It will be pretty simple, and it feels innately boring to me, but I have to keep reminding myself this is the very first combat in the game. It can be a little boring. We'll ramp up and get things more interesting after we fought an enemy a few different times. Yeah. Yep. Okay. We're gonna stop here for now. We'll be back again at 1 o'clock, or no, sorry, 2 o'clock for a continuation of this. I don't even know what we're doing right now. We're just like building maps, essentially. Tutorialize combat. You know what? Actually, the better words for what we're going to do after lunch is we're going to finally get to a balance pass, I think. We're going to start playing with the stats, and I think this is a more better representation of like a first run and what that's going to feel like. We're going to figure out what your health should be, what the enemy's health should be, and, you know, essentially it'll be pretty boring because it's just going to be hit them 3 times, I think, but we got to get those numbers in line. Yeah, so we'll be back in about an hour. For now, though, this is going to be Tolhi signing out. Later, folks.